Welcome to the University of the Pacific's Overview of Sakai series. In this module, we will be looking at managing site content with the Resources tool. We will be primarily looking at how to use resources and uploading and managing that content, as well as permissions and how to access that content both from within your site and from other sites. Resources are an integral part of every Sakai site. They can either be visible or invisible and can be used by instructors as either a repository for information and documentation for the courses, or it can be hidden from view and students can access the information from a variety of other areas. To make your resources visible, first go to Site Editor, then Edit Tools, select Resources, click Continue, Finish, and your resources appear in the left-hand column. When you click on Resources, you'll notice that Resources provide you with a file structure for the documents that you're uploading. Each folder within your resources has a variety of actions. First, you can upload files, create folders, add web links, add citation lists, create HTML pages, or create text documents. Among the actions, you can edit the details. If we edit the detail, you'll see that we can add a description of the file, put special quotas in place in order to limit the size of the files that are being uploaded, as well as access to the web addresses to those files. These addresses can be copied and pasted and sent to your course participants via email or loaded to the website. Before Sakai can use a file, it needs to be uploaded into resources. There's a couple ways that you can do this. The first and more straightforward way is to click on the Add, Upload File, choose File, select the file that you want to upload, click Open, and upload file now. Once the file is uploaded, you have a variety of actions that you can take. You can copy an item, edit the details, upload a new version, move, remove, or duplicate. Editing the details allows you to change the name, add a description, set the copyright status, set the accessibility so that only members of the site can see it, or in some cases you may want to make the file publicly available, which is very useful for image files. You can also set the item to show continually or through specific times. Again, anything that's loaded into the resources has its own unique web address that can then be emailed to students or added to other websites. Email notifications can be added so that if changes are made to a particular file, notifications will be sent out to participants. You can indicate a high priority in which all participants will be notified. A lower priority will only notify students that have specifically opted in to receive notifications, or you can set to no notifications. Another way to upload resources is directly through various tools within Sakai. For instance, on my home page, if I wanted to add a picture to the front page, I could either upload the image into resources and then link it to the front page, or I can do it directly by clicking on Options and using the Image Edit tool. This brings up the image properties where I can browse the server, and we see an alternate view of the site's resources. In this case, it's only looking for images. Since I do not have any images up, no images are showing. It also gives me access to all my other sites. So to upload the image, I click Choose File, find the image that I want, click Open, and then click Upload on the far right side. Once the upload is complete, I have access to my image from the Resources folder. Make sure you put in alternative text. Adding alternative text to your image is a best practice in order to make your images more accessible to students with disabilities. Now we can adjust the width and the height. In this case, the width is far larger than the space that we have available, so I'll change that to 350. Click OK, and the image shows up in our editor. Now we'll update our options, and the image shows up on our home page. If I go back to resources, you'll now see that the images appear in the resources as well. A third option for uploading resources to your site is through various tools like the Assignments or Syllabus tool, which, when you set up, give you the option to add attachments. Adding the attachment adds the file specifically to that page, in addition to adding documents, images, and PDF files to your site resources. There's a variety of other options that you have. To add a web link, click Add Web Link, enter your URL, click Add Web Links now. To add a citation list, click on Citation. You have the option of importing citations from EndNote, RefWorks, and other citation management tools. You can create a new citation by adding in the appropriate fields. But in this case, we'll search Google Scholar, type in the title of your book, and in this case, instead of clicking on the book link, you'll click Import into Sakai, which then brings over the relevant information, and we can close the window. Now when we review the citation list, the information for the book shows up as a citation. We click Continue, Finish, and now we have our new citation list. When students click on this list, the relevant information from your citation shows up. Additionally, you can create an HTML page by clicking on Create an HTML page, which brings you to the visual editor. You can use any of these tools, including inserting images and editing images. You can insert flash items, create hyperlinks, change the color of your text, and if you're familiar with HTML, you can click the Source button, which then switches to Source View. You can compose directly into Sakai's HTML page editor. However, another option is to copy and paste from a software program like Word. If you're using Word, one note of caution. Often the XML code that Word generates conflicts with the HTML that Sakai reads, so there's a special tool that you need to use. Let's go to our Word page, select the information that you want to copy, and then instead of copying it directly into the HTML editor, we need to choose the Paste from Word tool, paste into the editor, and then we want to ignore the font face definitions and remove style definitions. What this does is it strips all the XML code out of the text that you're bringing over and makes sure that it's nicely formatted for Sakai. One recommendation is if you plan to bring over information from Word, try to keep formatting at a minimum, and if you'd like to use colors or other types of styles within Sakai, copy and paste it from Word into Sakai first, and then do all of your fine-tuning format within the Sakai editor. This will make for a smoother transition into the Sakai platform. Click Continue. Here we can name our page, add a description, set our copyright status, and we can make it visible to members of the site, publicly viewable, or we can show the item for specific dates. We can send an email notification to our students, or none at all, and click Finish. Now the document shows up as an HTML page. Lastly, you can create a text document. This is useful for instructions and other information that does not require formatting. Sakai also allows you to manage and organize your content in a system very similar to file structures that you are used to on your computers. For instance, if you want your materials organized by week, you can go to Create Folder, add a name like Week 1, Create Folder, and we can create a second folder, name that Week 2, and then we can move files into the respective folders. To move a file, click on Actions, click Move, and you'll notice each of the folders in the citation list have clipboards that appear. I can then indicate which folder I want my file to be moved to. Again, I select the item, click Move, and then select the folder. This allows me to add organization to my resources. One note of caution about organizing your materials and resources is that once links are established in your site, if you change the organization in your resources, it can affect how it appears on your site. For instance, earlier in this tutorial, we inserted a picture on the front page of our website, and if I go back there, you'll notice that the link is now broken. To correct this, I need to reestablish the link. So I go into Options, click the image, click Insert Image, and then Browse Server. Now once I access the server, you'll notice that the files that I created are now present. So I go into week 1, and there's my title image. And then I resize it again and click OK. And update options. So while it is possible to fix these broken links, it's important to remember that changes in the resources will affect the website, and that it's a good idea to create your organizational structure first before starting with the rest of your class. You have control over the permissions of all the files and the file folders in the resources. To access permissions, go to the Actions item, select Edit Details, and there you can change the name and the description of your resources. Choose the availability and access. The default is to only members of the site, though you can change it to make it publicly viewable or make it available to only selected groups. You can also choose to have the folder visible or only visible from certain dates. You can also hide the folder and its contents. Every folder and item in the resources has its own unique web address, which can be useful if you want to send out specific items through email. Simply copy the address, and you can paste it into your documents or email correspondence. There are some optional properties which allow you to set additional metadata to your files and folders. And lastly, you can set the email notifications. One advantage of the resources is that students can have access to materials in a variety of ways. For instance, you could send them directly to the resources, or you can have them access the resources from any of the other tools within Sakai. For example, let's say we have a paper that requires a case study document. In week 2, I've uploaded a case group 1 document that I want my students to read. I can either send them here, or from within a tool such as the Assignments tool. I have a paper 1, I edit the paper, and I can add or remove attachments. When I add an attachment, I can either choose a file directly from my computer, or I have access to my resources down here. I click the week 2, and there's my cases 1 document. So I'll attach a copy, click continue, and when I post, students will now have access to that document. Another alternative way to access it from outside of resources is to add a hyperlink, highlight case, select Insert Edit Link, click Browse Server, which then brings up the resources. I can then either click on week 2 and have access to my week 2 documents. Alternatively, I have access to the other courses that I'm currently enrolled in. To click another course, just click on it. I can then click on Content, and I can have access to the materials in the resources of all other courses that I'm enrolled in. Once I have the document selected, click OK, and now I have a hyperlink directly to my resources. These are 2 alternative ways of accessing resources from within Sakai.